Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Sew in Common's Wednesday night live. Here at Sew in Common, we use the Build-A-Quilt system, which is patchwork made with the hoop of your embroidery machine to make gorgeous quilts and quilted projects, and I'm thrilled to have you all with us tonight. Go ahead and check in. I see that Gail is with us. Hi, Gail. I am so glad that you're with us this evening. Welcome to any new viewers that haven't been with us before. We're thrilled to have you. Stay, join in the fun, have a good time. We love having everybody here. For everybody who's been with us for a while, of course, welcome back. I love to see all of you back as well. You'll have to excuse me. I've got a little frog in my throat this evening. Again, it's this crazy weather. We had like 52 degrees yesterday morning, and now it's back up to 90. Who knows? Hello, Ruth. Hi, how are you tonight? So I guess first I'll say, while everybody's checking in, I want to shout out to the ladies that sent me, hi T, from South Carolina. How's the weather down in South Carolina? I know it's just missing us this time, but everybody south of us here in Illinois is like burning up, like in the hundreds. Plus there's some hurricane getting ready to hit the Texas coast and all that kind of craziness. Anyway, to the folks that sent me emails today, 3 of them said something nice about Dave, who was here 2 weeks ago as our special guest. And they were very kind comments. And so I shared those with him today, and you made his day. That's all I can say is you made his day. So very hot, is it? Yeah, I bet so. We were in the almost 100 just a couple of weeks ago, and now we're still like in the 90s today and tomorrow for the 4th. But just stay cool, drink lots of water, lots of iced tea, all that good stuff. And again, I shared something I shared a couple weeks ago. The doctor told me the best thing to stay hydrated is skim milk. If it's ice cold and comes with a side of chocolate cake, I'm in there. Otherwise, I don't know. Have a friend that lives in Fort Mill. Oh, great. Love that. Perfect. So thank you all again for those of you that sent those messages to Dave. You really did make his day. Absolutely. And for all of us that are here tonight from the U.S., happy 4th of July. Tomorrow is the 4th of July, and I wanted to wish you all a very happy 4th of July. If you've got barbecues planned or fireworks planned, have fun, stay safe, all that good stuff. We always have a big craft show. What else, right? Here in our area that we go to, and then there's our neighbor does fireworks till 3 or 4 in the morning. So nobody's going to get no sleep tomorrow night. Anyway, college at Winthrop. Oh, T, you've got a son starting college. That's awesome. Fireworks tomorrow. Cool. I love all those comments. Keep them coming, guys. Keep them coming. So, we've got a lot to go over tonight. I've got some announcements that for 2 weeks from now, you're going to want to stay in here. And then we're going to be doing tonight the last 2 segments of our project from the new pattern, from the new collection, My First Build-A-Quilt. We're going to be doing the diamond in a square, and we're going to be doing one of these little modified half square triangles. Now, I know I usually have the big board here with the piece laid out and pinned up. Well, it's sitting right there. I've kind of figured out a way so I don't have to roll the machine and everything away and accidentally turn off the connection like I did last week. So sorry. So we've got those things to go in tonight. And of course, I like to always start with a few little memes. So let's take a look at this first one here. A quilter's brain. So a quilter's brain. So many ideas, so little time. Absolutely. Quilt tops. Yes. I can't decide, so I'll just buy them all. Absolutely. Fabric, more fabric, even more fabric. Yeah, I know I've got lots of fabric places in my brain. Can't you see I'm quilting? I know no one will notice, but I have to take those stitches out. I know, I always tell you guys, perfect is the enemy of beautiful and good, but I know sometimes as quilters, we just have to pick things out. That's how we are. A quick stop at the quilt store. Is there such a thing as a quick stop at the quilt store? What do you think? You can let me know in the comments. Got to finish that binding. Someone's having a baby. I'd better start on a new quilt. Isn't that the... Or somebody's graduating. I better make them a going off to college quilts. That too. I'll keep that scrap. I might need it someday. That's true. I don't get rid of my scraps, and you guys know why, because we use them for the mosaic quilting that we do occasionally. We did that back in March. So I thought that one was a good one. I like that one. Now let me go in and I can find another one for us. I got a couple of those for us to share this evening. Oh, do we have any Downton Abbey fans here tonight? If we do, you're going to love this one. A lady never discusses the size of her fabric stash. Isn't that true? All we know is the bigger the stash, the better. Am I right? I'm right. I know I'm right on that one. These are cool, but fabric needs to be larger. Okay, I get that one. More like an hour or so at the quilt store. Oh, an hour. See, an hour for me, that's a short trip to the quilt store, Gail, for sure. But I get what you're saying for sure. Yes, a lady never discusses the size of her fabric stash. That's the truth. I agree with Lady Grantham there. So yeah, I was a Downton Abbey person. I liked that show. So I thought that one was cute. And I've got one more to share with us tonight. Let me see here. Oh, this one was kind of funny, I thought. Funny. I don't remember making this. Nice piecing. I'm better than I thought. Isn't that the case? Hey, all right. So I want to see comments right now. If when you start going through your quilts and doing your organization of your room and all that, if you don't every single time find a quilt that you've forgotten you've made and you look at it and you go, dang, that's good. I was really good. So this is so my grandmother. The woman who taught me to quilt, every time we'd visit her, she had one little bitty, and remember in farmhouses, closets were like the size of a matchbox. She had one little bitty quilt, and inside there, the quilts went from the floor to the ceiling. And every time we'd go through and look at piles and piles of them, and she'd go, gosh, I don't remember making that one. Of course not, Gran. That's just the way you are, honey. We know that. So those are our little memes this week. I hope you guys liked them. So, every week I do a thank you for the shares. So if you share something with me and it's something that I can share with the whole group, I want to do that. So last week we talked about, let me find the one in this pattern. There we go. We talked about different ways to use the coloring sheet that comes in your pattern, right? Well, one of our subscribers, one of our dear friends, Tanita, contacted me and she said, and I didn't think about this because I don't use an iPad or a pad for coloring in that. I wish I knew how and had one and could do that, but I don't. Anyway, she said she takes the coloring sheet and she colors it and plays with it right on her pad. So if you have something like that, go for, oh, T, that's you. I'm assuming I'm allowed to call you T. I don't want to be disrespectful. But thank you for that. Thank you for that note, because that can be really helpful. I know I have a friend, she is an artist and she uses her pad and stuff all the time. And I didn't even think about it because like I said, I don't have one that I use. I have like an ebook reader and that's all I have. I can't believe all the quilts I did and gave away until someone tells me they still have the quilts. Isn't that wonderful though, when they still have the quilts you made for them? Yeah, absolutely. That's awesome. Most people can't pronounce Tanita, but you nailed it. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. I always like make it a rule to pronounce someone's name the way, whether it's proper or not, the way, you know, we think something should be, to pronounce it the way they want it pronounced. I just think otherwise that's disrespectful of the person. So, I'm so glad you're with us tonight, T, and thank you so much for that piece of information. So, you guys, if you have an iPad or an Android pad, anything like that, and you can do coloring on it, then transfer your little files into there and do them like she does, because that will save you from printing, and then you can wipe them clean, try other colors. I mean, you've got the whole kit and caboodle right there waiting for you to play with that. All right, so that's our thank you. Now, I've been showing you every week, like last week we showed you the coloring tips, and I like to show different tips on color, like choosing color and stuff and things that I do, because like I said, that's the number one question I get asked for the 55 plus years I've been quilting. Well, maybe not that long, since I started teaching quilting. How do I pick colors? How do I pick my fabric colors? So there is something else that I do that I've been doing for decades, long before things like the color cube came out, long before we had iPads and things like that. But I want to show you the back of the color, one of these color cube cards, because I don't have individual paint chips. But see how these go from dark to light all the way up. So that's what a paint chip is like at the hardware store, right? It gives you a darker color at the top, and it might have 3 or 5 or 7 different variations of that color. I used to go and do nothing more than go to the hardware store to grab those color chips, because then I would take them with me to the fabric store, and I would have darks, mediums, and lights, and maybe sometimes in betweens, and then I was able to easily blend and match my fabrics up. And so now I do something very similar, and you can do this with any paint brand, whatever you have in your local shop, whatever you like. And the nice thing about paint is, you know how every year we have a color of the year in fabric and all? Well, that goes into paint and home decor as well. So they will always have those paint chips, but there's a company I like. It's actually a British paint company called Farrow and Ball. They make some of the absolutely best. I've only used them for interiors, but best paint I've ever used. And I'm glad, because they're what I would call a considered purchase, their paint, but so worth it, lasts forever. Anyway, they sent me one of their color card sets as an accordion folder type scenario. So it's got everything from the neutrals to the brights to the in-between colors. Everything is on. I'll just show you one. So like these are some of the like lighter lavenders into taupes and blacks, and this one is grays. Here's got oranges, reds, kind of blue grays here. And so I always carry this with me. And then they sent me something the other day. It's called Carte Blanche, and it is some newer, brighter colors. Now, some of those, you guys know right there, that's my color right there. That's my color. And I also actually love this. I call it celery. They call it hog plum. Have no idea, but I call it celery. And so they sent me this too, because these colors aren't in here. And so what I do with these, what I used to do only with this, but now I do it with both, is I have this little binder. It's just got like little paper things in it. I keep notes in it and stuff when I go out. I've got a sticky pad in here, all that kind of stuff. And I always keep my paint chips in there. And if I've got one of the, like my color cube cards, I'll stick that in there too. But I keep them in there. And then this is always in the tote bag that I take with me everywhere because I stuff it with everything that I don't want in my purse. But when I go into the fabric shop, I've got this. I might have like written on one of those pages or sticky, all the information I need for fabric, that sort of thing. And then I have those color cards that really help me pick my fabric colors. And I have been using those literally for decades and decades, at least 4 decades. I've been using that. I came up with that system for myself, and it's free. So it's completely free. And anytime I go to the paint store, I go over and look. If there's a new color I like, I grab one. Or if like it's the new color of the year, I grab those too. So that's your color tip for this week. I hope it's helpful. You can let me know if you have something you do that helps you, some kind of a product or something that helps you figure out your colors too. Drop it in the comments and then I can mention it at our next live so that everybody who's not here tonight will see it. Alrighty, so that's our color tip. Alrighty, now I want to briefly tell you in 2 weeks, which is the 17th of July, there will be no live on the 17th of July, and we will return on the 24th of July. So next week we're here because next week we'll be finishing up our first project. But the week after, the 17th, we will not be having a live. But I promise you, it's for a good reason, because that is one of our local county fairs. It's the Iroquois County Fair, and I am their quilt judge every year. I've been doing it for several years. And so I'm at the fair all day. I know, how lucky am I that I get to go to the fair and I get to judge quilts all day. Isn't that great? So I do the kids, I do the 4-H'ers, I do the adults. It's a lot of fun. People bring me corn dogs and lemon lime slushies and all kinds of stuff that I don't need. But it's like my one day a year where I say, forget the diet and eat what anybody brings me from the fair, because fair food is the best, right? Am I right? Yes. How many people love going to the county fair? I love it. It's always been one of my most favorite things to do in the world. Okay, I have a thread chart for Madeira and Floriani thread. I got them when I started using my Ruth, that's an awesome idea. So I have one of those for signature threads. I might have another one too. Does it have like the actual little pieces of thread on it? But a thread chart like that would be perfect to take with you when you're working with your fabrics. Absolutely wonderful. Your fair is in October. Oh, that's a great time of year for a fair. I think our fairs finish up around mid-September. The one for the county where Dave and I live, that one is always first week of August, I think. And sometimes I judge there, sometimes I don't, but I always judge at this other one, and that's coming up. So that's why we will not be here on the 17th, but I'll be thinking of you at the fair. Last year, I did little mini videos from the fair. I'll do that again this year too, and I'll post those here on YouTube so you guys can kind of see what I've been up to all day. So, but we will return on the 24th of July. All righty. Okay, I'm just checking my notes here. Oh, I almost forgot last week. I don't want to do this. Are you guys ready for the question of the week? Yes, that's not just something I have to print. Yes, Ruth, that's such a great idea. Your thread charts. That's an awesome idea. Yay. Thanks, Ruth. Alrighty. So are you guys ready for the question of the week? So this week, I'm going to pick one winner, and that person is going to get a free Build a Quilt block pattern, something that is not available on the website, obviously. So if you win, and I'll pick the winner later, so you've got the rest of the hour to put your answer in, then I will, you can send me your email in an email at support@sewuncommon.com. and I will send you your free pattern. So here's the question of the week. How long have you been a quilter? Not a Build a Quilter, unless this is the first kind of quilting you've ever done. then that's cool too. But how long have you been a quilter? Are you like me where you've been quilting forever and you're doing Build a Quilt now? Have you tried your hand at quilting in another technique? That makes you a quilter for sure. And now you're doing Build a Quilt. Do you still like doing both? How long though? How long have you been a quilter? Let me know in the comments and we'll come back to that again at the end and we'll roll for a winner. Maybe a couple winners. I don't know. I like people to win, so we might do more than one. I don't know. Oh, hey, T, there's no only in being a quilter. Once you're a quilter, my friend, you're a quilter. So 4 years, that's actually a pretty long time to be a quilter. I wouldn't consider you a newbie anymore. Nope. That's great. Since 2019, that's awesome. Congratulations. I'm so glad that you're one of us. I've quilted for 25 years, but took 4-year break due to moving and health issues. Well, that's okay, Ruth. I mean, who says we have to quilt every day? I don't. Quilting is something you love. You do it when you can. Trust me, I've been quilting for 55 years, but for a lot of those years, I might have made one quilt a year because I was, married and teaching and going to school and getting degrees and all that kind of crazy stuff that you do in life, right? Quilting wasn't my everyday part of my life the way it is now, for which I'm so completely blessed to be able to do that. So 25 years, that's a long time. 21 to 14, then stopped and doing embroidery, picked it up again in 2022. That's great, Gail. I would love and hope to do more since I retired last year. Oh, Ruth, I'm so jealous you're retired. Actually, I'm not. I love what I do. So whether I was retired or not, I'd be doing this. So that's fantastic though, that you're retired. That's awesome. Absolutely. So hopefully, yeah, that'll give you more time to do more quilting. All right, everybody. I want to get, hi, Sharon. How are you, dear? Team bought a machine, needed it for real estate therapy. I still call it my therapy every day. Okay, Sharon, I love that story. I'm not quite sure what real estate therapy is. If you want to explain, I would love to hear, but don't feel like you have to. But anytime somebody says quilting is their therapy, I'm like right there with you. When I want to just close out the world, I come in here. And when I shut the door, everybody knows, don't walk in there. That's my therapy. I love that. Therapy for sure. That's awesome. That's so great. You guys are awesome. Just wonderful. Yay. All right, everybody. We've got 2 pieces to do tonight. We've got our diamond in a square. I always get confused pointing into the camera. Diamond in a square and modified half square triangle. And these are the actual sizes. So the diamond in a square is actually a bigger piece. It's a 5x5 piece for our project. And the modified half square triangle is 2.5 by 2.5 because you make 4 of these. You're going to make 4 of both of these, and you'll see the full piece over here that I've got pinned to the board in a little bit. But you make 4 of these to make a 5x5 square. And then you make 4 of these, and these go in different places. So that's what we're doing tonight. And the reason I save these for last, not that they're difficult, but they are slightly more involved. There's more fabric pieces in them. So that's why I save them. Now, let me tell you something about our little friend, the modified half square triangle. You can see it's like any other half square triangle here on this half, but this half, it's got 4 pieces of fabric in it. That's the modification. So this is what we call a double modification because there's 2 and 2. And there's all kinds of modifications, and we'll be doing, in fact, I'm trying to put together a set of them that will be available on the website. However, here's a note, and I want you to write it down so you don't forget when you go to do these. On the cut list for this square, for these little pieces, the fabric A and fabric B, I want you to add 1/2 to 1 full inch, and I would say 1 full inch, to the cut size for these pieces. So I think you're told to cut these 2.5-inch squares and then cut them on the diagonal so that you have the two pieces in each color. I want you to cut them 3.5-inch squares and cut those on a diagonal because these pieces were very small. And at the size I put in the pattern, I was able to do it, but I know I had to work with it a little bit. I am afraid that I did not do, normally I give you larger sizes to work with so that it's you have plenty of fabric. And I feel like the size I gave you guys was a little snug. Now, those of you that's been quilting for a long time now, which is most of you, you probably can work it out. But if you want it just to be smoother and easier, cut it 1 inch bigger, cut it 3.5-inch squares, and then cut those on the diagonal. And you'll get the two pieces in your blue, two pieces in the yellow, or whatever color scheme you've decided to use. Okay. Alrighty. So let's head over to the other camera. Busy real estate agent, 40 years, Sharon, my goodness. And I had to take my brain elsewhere. Plus, when I get frustrated, the transaction, I would go to the quilt shop and touch fabric. See, did you pet the fabric? I bet you did. Yeah, you're one of us for sure. That is an amazing story. Real estate for 40 years. Wow, that's incredible. We used to have a really good friend in the real estate industry when we lived in Seattle. And the woman was a firecracker. I mean, she was like the top selling real estate agent in the whole city. And her husband redid interiors of homes. They were the perfect couple together. And that woman never stopped working. If I saw her at church on Sunday, it was a miracle because she never stopped working. So hands off to you, Sharon. I know that's not an easy job, but I understand the whole idea about wanting to go to the store. Pet the fabric, just nice. Yeah, I don't need pets. I have fabric to pet. So, alrighty. So let's go ahead and flip the camera now and bring this up. All right. So here we are at the machine. And the very first piece we're going to make, I've got my stabilizer in my hoop, wash away, just your typical wash away, because we know then when we wash this away, all we're quilting in the end is our quilt top, our batting, and our backing fabric, just like with any other quilt. So I've stitched out machine step 1, which is the boundary box. And I've stitched out step 2 right on the stabilizer. That gives me the placement area for my first piece of fabric. So I'm going to move my little square over. And this center piece is white for me, so I'm going to, oops, there we go. You know what? I thought I cut this right. I think I cut it wrong. Yes, not quite. I think I can still make it work. I accidentally cut my piece of fabric a little bit small, but I think it's going to work. Alrighty. I was in my scrap bin and I had the lights out so the room wouldn't get hot, and I think I just miscut it. So I'm just putting a little bit of glue stick there, your fabric glue stick. I'm going to lay this down, and wow, that's really going to be tight, but it's good enough for demonstration purposes. I'm going to put this back on here. Your piece will be you'll have extra over all your lines. Mine's going to be a little tight, but that's okay. Now we're doing machine step 3, which is we are stitching that down. Now, if you remember last week, we talked about in our flying geese unit about trimming. And so in this piece, in the diamond and the square, we have to trim all 4 corners away. So let's bring this out. Now remember, I'm left-handed, but all 4 of my corners there, I need to trim off. And I just get in there and kind of eyeball between 1/8 and 1/4 inch. Like I said, if you need to put a ruler down there and give yourself a little line for measurement for a while to make sure it's how you like it, go for it. But all of your seam allowance is built into the digital pattern. So if you're off by a little bit, this is not going to matter. as in traditional quilting, if you're off at all with this, then you have to do squaring up and all kinds of craziness. But that's not the case with Build-A-Quilt. So I've trimmed those 4 pieces down. And your first piece is always laid how? Right side up. Now, all other pieces are going to be laid right side down. And the first piece I'm going to be doing is in the upper right corner. Here's my fabric. So I'm going to lay it down, right sides together. I'm going to go ahead and put my little dot of glue, and I just put a tiny bit right in there so that I don't have to take it out and do it next time when I flip it. Now I'm going to stitch that down. Now, if you want to talk about stitching speed, I think for demonstration here, I think I have mine set at 500 stitches per minute, which is, I consider that my slower speed. I usually stitch at about 700 stitches a minute, but this machine will go to 1080. We flipped it. Now we're going to stitch this down into place. I never use full speed on my machines ever. I think you're just asking for trouble, but that's a personal preference. But for me, it's trouble if I start going fast with anything. All right, so that one's done. Now I'm going to put a little bit of glue stick right there because in this one, I'm just working around clockwise. Now I'm going to lay my next piece, my next corner piece down, just right on the edge of the fabric that it's laying on top of. Stitch that down, and then we'll flip it and stitch it into place. So this one you can see is very similar to doing our flying geese unit last week, but instead of just doing 2 corners and it being a rectangle, we're going to do all 4 corners, and then we'll have a square and we'll have our diamond shape in the middle. We're going to go ahead and stitch that down. Actually, my fabric piece turned out to be just fine. Although I did cut that first one the wrong size, just by a teeny bit, but it turned out just fine. And that's good for you guys to know. If you accidentally cut just a sliver too small, a lot of times you can make it work because I give you plenty of fabric. All right, we're going to lay the 3rd one down. And so at 500 stitches a minute, this stitches out in 3 minutes, according to my machine. If I were doing this at 700 stitches a minute, it would probably stitch out between 1 and 2 minutes. So these go really quickly. And I just love the fact that I never have to square up. If you've been a traditional quilter, you know that 9 times out of 10, when you do your blocks, you have to square them up to make sure that they're all the exact same size. With Build-A-Quilt, you don't got to do that. And that to me, that is worth any stabilizer, anything else that people say, oh, but you got to do this, or you got, that's worth everything to me, because squaring up blocks to me is a total waste of my time. That's just how I feel. I've always felt that way. My grandmother used to grouse at me about it. Now we're going to do the 4th one, and we'll basically be done with this block. That's how quick it goes. But I really hate squaring up blocks. I've got more square up rulers than Carter has pills, and now they just sit in a drawer because with Build-A-Quilt, I don't need them, and I love that. That's another thing I like about this, doing quilting with this system, is that you don't need nearly as many gadgets. And if you knew me well enough, you'd know that's hard for me because I'm a real gadget lover. But I have so many templates and rulers and things in my drawers that I never use anymore. All right, so if you remember last week, remember, if you have a question, guys, go ahead and ask them, and I'm looking over to try and catch them. But if you remember doing the flying geese unit last week, the last thing we do is stitch all the way around, and that is our guideline for when we stitch our blocks together with our sewing machine. So as long as we stitch down that block after we've cut it out of the stabilizer, it's easier to see this sample right here. So when we cut these out of the stabilizer, we have this 1/4 inch here. As long as we stitch down that line when we're stitching two pieces together, we have the perfect seam each and every time. You don't need a 1/4 inch foot on your machine. In fact, I would recommend, if you're a traditional quilter and say, oh, I'm just going to leave my 1/4 inch foot on and use it, don't. It will mess you up a little bit. So just follow that line. It's a bazillion times easier. So we're going to stitch that line down, but there are a couple of places where I want to put tape. It's going to start here and go this way. Well, it's not going to get caught there because it's going with that fabric, but right there, this one, that's a really good place for my foot on my machine to get caught. So outside of the boundary line, so there's my stitch line. Outside of that line, I'm going to put a piece of tape to hold that fabric down. And if I go over here, that one needs to be held down as well. And I always put it outside the boundary line so that I'm not picking tape out of my seams. Because remember, we're asking our embroidery machine to do what our sewing machine does, just straight run stitches. And those are the easiest ones to pull out if you get really rough with them. And then this one over here needs a piece of tape as well. So I'm going to stick that on there. And now I'm going to put this back into the machine and we're going to stitch it all the way around. And then we're done with this piece. And then we will move on to our next piece, which is our modified half square triangle unit. And I'm going to get myself a new piece of stabilizer. So with your 5x7 hoop, if that's the hoop size you're using, and that's the only hoop size you need to use, you're going to be able to do one of these diamond in a square units per hooping. So you would have 4 hoopings of this for this unit for this project. However, when we get to doing our modified half square triangle, because it is 2.5 inches, we can get 2 or 3 of them in this hooping. And that's when I like using my 6x6 hoop, because I can get all 4 of my modifieds in this hooping. Can only get 3 in the 5x7, but I wish every company did a 6x6 hoop because it really is great. But if your machine company does like an 8x8 square or a 9x9 or a 10x10, any square hoop, you might want to consider having one, because you get more units in a single hooping than you do with a rectangular hoop, which makes that much more convenient and much more efficient and a better use of your stabilizer. So I'm just going to lay my stabilizer here and hoop that right up. And then I'm going to come over here and get my pattern up on my machine. Let's see. Make sure I'm getting the right one. I have a couple different modifieds in my saved in my machine. What I saved in my machine are my segment pieces that I use a lot, so that they're always there and I don't have to worry about my USB and all of that. All right, so I'm just going to leave this centered so that we can see it. But because this is 2.5, normally I'd put one up in the top corner, one in the middle, and one in the bottom corner, and I'd get at least 3 in this hooping. What have I? Oh, I need to finish editing. There we go. All right, and so here, while we're stitching out our original boundary box, there are my 2 pieces of my blue and my yellow, and there's my red piece for the other side. So I have my 2 blue, my 2 yellow, and my red. I ended up ordering a 6x6 off eBay this week for that reason. Oh, Teague, that's great. I'm glad you found one on eBay. I bet you actually saved yourself some money, which is awesome. All right, I'm going to stitch down my second line so that I know where I'm going to start. Okay, so the very first piece that I'm going to lay down is going to be this blue piece right here. I'm going to show you that. So this piece, let's bring this out of the machine. This piece, there's my little triangle. Let me bring this up so you can see. You can see my little triangle. So I'm going to put a piece of or a little bit of glue right there and take one blue piece of fabric. Now, here's what I like to do. Remember, any fabric that falls outside of that boundary box doesn't get trimmed until we trim the whole piece out. But because you've got places in here where you could have to trim fabric, I give us way too many, because if you just want to plop it down right there, go for it. And then we'll trim it on each side, and that makes it easier. But if you're like me and you like to play the game, I like to feel where my thread is underneath and lay my fabric down and then stitch it. And then I don't have to trim afterwards. And then a lot of times, you know, this piece over here, I can do something else with. But I'm just going to lay this on top. So the piece goes like this, and I'm just going to lay it right on top because I want to show you how to trim it. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to stitch that down. Okay, now let's take this out. Now, this piece here, leave it alone because it's outside the boundary box. But this piece and this piece we need to trim because they're still within the square. And if we left them as is, we'd be getting a whole lot of bulk in our square. And when you're especially dealing with small pieces, you don't want to do that. So just like we did with the corners of the diamond in a square, we're just going to come in here and trim that edge and this edge. And then I throw those pieces away. Now my next piece is going to be a yellow piece, and it gets laid. Now this is where people get confused. This piece is going to be stitched right along here, and then it's going to be stitched right here. So your point is going this away. So what I like to do is I like to lay my fabric out just like it's going to end up, facing that way. And then all I do is flip it over. I've got fabric outside my boundary. Cool. I'm going to trim there. Fine. But I know now that when I flip this fabric, it's going to flip right into place. And I'm just going to put a wee bit of glue stick there, and we'll stitch that down, and I'll check for comments. I mean, putting more than one block in the hoop. Yeah, I got what you meant for sure, Gail. All right, so there it's stitched down. Now I'm going to flip this little piece, and look at how nicely it flipped right into place. I'm going to have plenty of fabric there. This is why I want you to cut these pieces to start 1 inch bigger than is on the cut sheet, so that you have plenty of fabric. And now I just have one side that I need to trim. But that is the easiest way to always get your triangular pieces to flip into place correctly. Trying to guess, you'll get it wrong every time, and you'll end up having to redo it. So, and I'll be showing you that again here in a minute. So, okay, so our next piece is going to be right down here, and it again is going to be a yellow piece. And so it is going with the corner going like up this way. So what I'm going to do with my yellow piece is lay it out on here just like it would be. That's exactly how it would be. Now this is kind of going to be interesting. So I'm going to flip that, and then when I flip it over, it's going to be right where it needs to be. All right, so I'm going to lay my fabric down. I'm going to put a wee bit of glue stick there, and go ahead and stitch that baby down. You're using mesh until you run out. Then that's fine, T. Absolutely. The only reason I don't do poly mesh and things like that is so that I can get it out of the quilt before I'm done. But you know, to be completely and totally honest, while I was creating this system over the 6 years it took me to create this system, I use poly mesh all the time because when I learned how to do machine embroidery, that was basically the embroidery stabilizer we used for just about everything. And so I used it, and I've got several quilts where my poly mesh is still in my quilts, and that's fine. So you see it laid down just right and stitched out. That's a little light tonight, maybe because it's gold, but it's right into place. And all I have to do now is trim this one edge. Pitch that away. Now, the last piece in these 4 here is this piece here, and that's a blue piece right here. And this is with the fabric pointing this way. So again, I'm going to lay it out here as if it would be finished, and then I'm just going to flip it over on top. I'm going to put just a dab. Actually, yeah, that's how I want to do it. I was second guessing myself. I have to stop that. Every time I second guess myself, I get myself into trouble. But I know a lot of quilters that still only use poly mesh tee, and it really is fine. I just like to give you, a lot of folks want that quilt just like it would be done without stabilizer at all, and that's, after lots of experiments, that's why I came up with it. And to be honest, I like it better. And I don't find it to be a waste because, you know, it gets me to do all this and then I don't have it left over in my quilt. So I find it to be fine. But for sure, use your mesh until it runs out. Okay, now I've got those 4 pieces done. That is the, shall we say, interesting part of this modified half square triangle, getting those 4 pieces in place. But you see, it was as simple as any other piece we've done. They're just smaller and they kind of go in a funny order. And I wanted the chance to show you how to lay those fabric out so that they would fall into place each and every time. Now we've got our red piece, which is our last piece. It goes right side facing down right here. A little bit of glue. And remember, when you use wash away stabilizer, your glue stick will wash away as well when you wash, which I love the fact that it will do that. Stitching this down. Now, my machine is telling me that this piece stitches out in 2 minutes. I know it's taken us a little bit longer because I'm demonstrating it, but when you're doing your own, this is going to stitch out rather quickly for you. But I think you'll have a much easier time if you cut those beginning squares an inch bigger. It's giving you plenty on the outside to trim away. And that was truly my mistake when I wrote that down. And I should do an upgrade for the pattern out on the web. All right, so now we're done and we just have to finish our last box. But let's see. As we go this way, we're going with the folds, so we don't have any problems. It's right here where we need to kind of put some tape. So I'm going to put a piece there, and I'm going to put a piece right here. And because you're putting them outside the stitch line, guys, when you peel those off, you can reuse those same pieces of tapes many times. Like I'll use them basically till they won't stick on the fabric anymore, and they'll be fine. So we're going to stitch out the last one all the way around. That will give us our stitch line for guiding our seams. And then we're done. See how easy it was to make these? Not a problem at all, but they built upon what we did last week with the flying geese unit, which was basically, if you look at our diamond and a square, a flying geese unit's basically half of it, an upper and a lower half made as one piece. And this wasn't nearly as difficult as it seems. It's the same idea, just you're working with smaller pieces. I know that kind of freaks some folks out too. So, all right, so we're done with this. I'm going to peel my tape off. And then that piece will get cut out as well. Now I want to bring up my camera here and we're going to look. There's our piece that we've been making. See, I told you I would show it to you at the end. But here it is. So here is our diamond in the square and our modified half square triangle. And so The diamond in a square is going to go right here. I took these directly off of the board from these two pieces directly off the board for the demonstration. So I'm going to put my diamond in a square there. And if you see the diamond in a square, you make 4 of them and they come right in here, almost in a diamond pattern themselves. And I like to think of these because the white is the background and the darker is on the outside. I kind of like to think of them almost as windows. And here is a tip for you if you want to add a little something extra to this pattern. When you're cutting out the fabric for your diamonds in a square and the one that will go there, if you want to fussy cut a fabric so that you have a specific design in there, that will make that pattern come even more to life because there will be something even more unexpected there for you to look at and to see. So if you want to give that a try, go right ahead. There's a video here on the website. And I have a fussy cutting template set that's like a buck for several size templates out on the website. I'm going to make myself a little note here. After we're done, I will link the fussy cut video for you guys. So if you want to watch that, you certainly can. And then our final little piece, which was our modified half square triangle, that's going to go here. And do you see what it makes in the center when you put those together? That's the great thing about modifications. The modification side can make other patterns. So in this one, the modification makes a pinwheel right here in the center. And it adds, again, another kind of unexpected idea to this overall pattern. Okay, so let's go back to our regular remove that. Hi, here we are. All righty, so let me put that light down. Otherwise it washes me out. So do we have any questions, guys, about either one of those demonstrations? So here is our pattern. You can see it really well here. That is making the pinwheel in the center of those modified half square triangles. And then with the 16 half square triangles we make the 4 bigger pinwheels. So this is kind of like a pinwheel heavy kind of a pattern. But that pinwheel can be used so often in quilting. It really is something that if you learn it early on, then you always kind of have it in your back pocket. If you want to put something in a square, if you want to make it something that's going to be in the center of a square or something that's going to connect your larger squares, pinwheels are great for that. And then again, with your diamonds in a square, perfect for fussy cutting. Okie doke. So any questions about that? You've got a little bit of time still because I didn't run us over. Oh, I'm so glad. And then don't forget, the question of the week is, how long have you been a quilter? And I know some of you've answered. You can still answer. And if you are chosen when I spin the number thingy, then you will get a chance to win a free Build a Quilt block. Okay. And if you are called out as the winner, please send me your email at www.sewincommon.com. Just put something in the title line like question of the week winner or something like that. And that way I'll know and I'll get that sent out to you tomorrow for sure. I know it's the 4th of July, but in the morning, I'll be doing a little work here in the studio, so I can for sure send that out in the morning. And let's go ahead and pick 2 winners. Okay, let's do that. You want to? 2 winners. Sounds good to me. So we're going to have 2 winners, but go ahead and take a minute and answer the question, how long have you been a quilter? And it doesn't matter if you've been a quilter for the last hour. If this is the first time you've ever done anything for the last hour, you've been a quilter, you're a quilter. Put that in the comment. If you've been a quilter, like one of our guests has been a quilter for 25 years, awesome. If you're a really oldie moldy like me, like I was quilting back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, because I've been quilting for over 55 years. I know it's an incredibly long time. But I I am so blessed that my grandmother decided to stick with her left-handed granddaughter. I'm the only lefty in our family, like for generations. And so nobody ever has known what to do with me. And she and I almost didn't make it through the learning process, but she just stuck with me. And I'm so thankful she did, because I love quilting. All right, we've got some more answers down here. Spin that wheel. Gail, you crack me up. You were always like, spin the wheel, spin the wheel. 15 years, I guess, is what it would be. 15 years. That's a long time, Gail. We've got a lot of experienced quilters here with us tonight. That's awesome. 4 years? That's still a good long time. I have tried both mesh and wash away. Good, good. Gail, I'm assuming you meant mesh and wash away, not mess and wash away. I've tried mess too. Believe me, I've made more messes than I can count. That's cute. I love it. Just teasing. So, all righty. Are we ready? You ready for me to spin the wheel, and then we can do our final announcements and all, and let you guys go for the evening. All right. Anybody else want to answer? Well, how long have you been a quilter? How long? How long? Yes, no show mesh. Gail, I do it so often when I saw it. It just tickled me. All right, are we ready? I'm going to spin the wheel. I can't watch because you guys know it makes me seasick. Wait a minute. Is it? Oh, it's still spinning. Ah. There we go. Now it's up. Gosh, that took a long time. Our first winner is Ruth Amdahl. Ruth, am I pronouncing that right? Amdahl? Please let me know if I'm not. I apologize. Ruth, you're a first winner. Let me write your name down so I know who's sending me emails. Yay! Congratulations, Ruth. Are you ready? We're going to spin again, spin again, spin again, spin again. And Gail Jean. Gail, you are our second winner. Congratulations. Congratulations. If you didn't win tonight, you guys know that every Wednesday we have live. I do this. Sometimes I just give patterns to everybody. In fact, guys, if you're here tonight while we're live, all of you lovely people that answered the question, go ahead and send me your email. If you did it last week, send me again, because I don't keep all of that for these. Send me your email and I will send out a pattern to everybody who is here tonight, because tomorrow's the 4th of July and I want to celebrate. So go ahead, send me an email and I will send everyone a pattern tonight. Thank you. Good. Oh, stop. No, I can't read. I have to read your comments now later. You guys are starting to make me cry. Don't do that. Shame on you for making me cry. I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me this evening for Sew and Commons Wednesday night live. You guys, so I'm as old as dirt. And so I'm guessing that a few of you remember or know about Saturday Night Live, right? I remember back when it started. Don't tell your grandkids I said that, because then they'll know you hang out with somebody who's old. But every time I say Wednesday Night Live, I hear the Saturday Night Live music in my head. Yes, everybody have a safe holiday. If you are traveling, please be very safe. I understand more people will be on the road or in the air this 4th of July weekend than in the history of the country. Now, how they know about like prior to vehicles and planes, I don't know, but it's going to be a lot of folks. So please be very, very, very careful, everybody. If you haven't already, please, if you're new with us tonight, we're so glad you spent some time with us. Go ahead and subscribe to Sew and Common and be part of the Sew and Common family here at YouTube, over on our Facebook page, and at the website, sewandcommon.com. That way you get notified when we do our blog, and that's where all of our patterns are, so you can check those out. We have some free patterns. And then remember, our pattern set for this Build a Quilt project is only $5 until the project's done, and then it will go up. And next week, so what I want you to do this week, everybody, is finish your pieces and follow the layout to stitch it together, or get as close as you can. We'll go over the layout a little bit more next week, but next week we're doing the quilting, because this pattern set comes with your quilting design as well. So that's coming next week. All right. So you can get your pattern at the website as well. $5 for this whole pattern set until we're done. So at the end of next week, this pattern goes up to its regular price, but $5 right now. All right. So that's the website. Please like and share. I appreciate that so much. And happy 4th of July, everybody. And until next time, as always, sew life beautiful. Bye, everybody. Have a great evening. Take care.